Good evening, everybody. I am loading the game. I don't see why it's not up yet, but if that's the only problem I have with the cast tonight, then there we go. Oh yes, I forgot. I need to make a couple of adjustments. All right. So basically, I am competing with a couple of things. Internet's still not totally fixed, but it seems that this workaround is doing what it was intended to. So I'm happy about that. And then there's a set of problems that I encounter running Assassin's Creed Unity in its present form. Specifically, so again, maybe for the benefit of those who might have intentions of streaming this game, because I am playing this game on a monitor that has a aspect ratio other than 16:9, and of course my stream is 16:9, I have to run it in windowed mode. Now, if I run it without VSync, so far as, okay, so actually the specific problem is not the VSync. The specific problem is that if left to its own devices, Assassin's Creed Unity wants to use all resources available to render everything. And the challenge there is that that also means it takes up all the processor for stream encoding, which means that we get these rather unfortunate lags. And the game is totally fine, but the stream suffers. Actually, let me just take a quick minute and check my assumptions there. So, easy enough. If I enable VSync, then it's going to the eyes of sin. It's always lovely to see you. How are you tonight? Let me just take a second here and adjust my... So... yeah, so we have all these options here, which are nice. And, you know, graphics quality, I'm assuming that's just adjustments in... Hello, Johnny Big Time. Another delightful individual who I like seeing. So yeah, the challenge here is that you get access to certain features, but you don't have any kind of a frame cap. The only way you can introduce a frame cap is by doing VSync. And for whatever reason, when you do VSync in windowed mode, it creates these just unplayable black strobes on the monitor. And so as a result, what I have to basically do when I stream Assassin's Creed Unity is I have to play it through my OBS preview. And I've noticed there's just an ever so slight lag between my... Actually, that just might be me being slow. It seems like there's a little bit of a lag, but it doesn't quite look 100%. But I would rather do that. I would rather play it in suboptimal conditions than not play it for you at all. So I did say last time that I was going to go through... I don't think I'll do the case files because I think those are all, yeah, those are all in-game things. But I am going to go through the entries of the encyclopedia that we have not seen yet. So reacquaint ourselves with the setting, or particularly the people. All right, well, apparently we've actually seen everything here, unless it was Francois Thomas Jamin, who... Oh yes, this is the guy we just saved. All right. A silversmith and son of a silversmith, Jamin was one of the legends of his trade, but he was doomed to die in obscurity. After an ill-defined scandal, possibly involving a violation of guild laws, he lost his position as a silversmith to the King of France and was kicked out of his accommodation in the Louvre. If there's a kind of scandal I love, it's the ill-defined kind. He employed dozens of workers in a workshop factory that produced thousands of pieces, many of which has since been lost, stolen, or melted down. I've got one. Makes a lovely paperweight. All right. Groups are taken care of, so locations, bridges. The Pont Neuf. This new bridge is the oldest existing bridge in Paris. The laying of the first stone on May 31st, 1578 was a tearful occasion for Henry III, who had just lost two of his favorite mignons in a duel. The king was coming out of the funeral service and it was raining. Always ready for a laugh, the Parisians subsequently dubbed the bridge Le Pont de Pleurs, or the Bridge of Tears. The Pont Neuf was a unique bridge at its time, the first to be built in stone, the widest, the most accessible, and unlike the other bridges in Paris back then, no houses were built along the bridge's span. Pont Notre Dame. Although many times destroyed and replaced, in the early 1400s, a few wooden planks served the purpose. Some form of bridge has existed on this spot in Paris since nearly the founding of the city. The bridge was historically lined with houses, but these proved too much of a burden on the bridge's stability. Pont Rouge. A wooden painted bridge linking the two islets. The Pont Rouge survived the Revolution, but was soon destroyed and eventually replaced by the Pont Saint-Louis and the Pont Saint-Michel. The first bridge in this location was built during a lull in the Hundred Years' War. In around 1378, it was named after the small nearby chapel of Saint-Michel in the enclosure in the Palais du Roi, which also lent its name to the district. It is the first location of a fixed bridge linking the Cité to the left bank. Like all other bridges at the time, it was fragile and often ravaged by floodwaters. At the time of the Revolution, it was lined with 32 houses, which would only be demolished in 1809. How are you doing, Sparks 5? And finally, the Pont Marie. The Pont Marie was named after its engineer, Christopher Marie, and not the Holy Virgin, who appeared to Henry IV to build a double wooden bridge across the Ile Saint-Louis. Despite Henry's assassination, the project continued. The bridge would later be renovated in stone. The enterprising Marie contemplated his assignment after collecting 20 years of toll charges. He was also tasked with creating the quays that encircled the island and plotting its streets. The first stone in the North Bridge was laid on October 11, 1614, and would be completed in 1630. In 1658, part of the bridge and the houses built atop it were destroyed by a flood, an all too common disaster in Paris at the time. About the time of the Revolution, the last remaining houses were demolished. And now you know about France's bridges. Churches. Notre Dame de Paris. Notre Dame de Paris is the foremost monument in Paris in the historic heart of its capital. Its pave is the point from which all milestones on the roads of France are measured. Built over the course of nearly a century, from 1163 to 1250, it was one of the first buildings in Europe to employ flying buttresses, which allowed for much higher and thinner walls around the choir and the nave. Personally, the last thing I'd want near a choir is a thinner wall. Lock them in, then soundproof the bugger, please. The flying buttresses also provide the support necessary for the inclusion of the church's famous and astonishing rose windows. During the Revolution, the great cathedral was variously used as food storage and a church dedicated to the cult of reason, and later the cult of the Supreme Being. Many of its greatest treasures were looted, and in 1793 an angry mob decapitated the statues of the biblical kings of Judah and that adorned Notre Dame, mistaking them for former kings of France. This is what happens when the uneducated lose their heads. Only 10 great bells survived unscathed, and the damage inflicted would not be repaired until 1845. Sainte-Chapelle. The Sainte-Chapelle, or Holy Chapel, was built by Louis IX, later canonized as Saint Louis, to house Christ's crown of thorns, which he had just purchased from Baldwin II of Constantinople. Louis purchased the crown of thorns, that means. Christ didn't travel into the future to buy a crown of thorns from Baldwin II of Constantinople. He already had access to the thorns in biblical times, and he didn't need to go all the way back to Constantinople to find some bloke called Baldwin II. Also, Baldwin II, so Baldwin I suffered through life with that god-awful name and then decided to give it to his son as well? Some people. The edifice is a unique example of seemingly invisible stonework, since its windows take up all the space between the structural supports. Perhaps more extraordinary is that it was built in just 2 years, between 1246 and 1248. Believe me, I'm very familiar with European builders. Nothing else in their history has ever been built in just 2 years, not even a small wall or a miniature water feature. It is set on 2 levels. The lower level was for Parisians and the people of the court. The upper level was for the king and his family. On important occasions, the king presented the crown taken from the reliquary, where he alone had the key to the kneeling congregation. It came close to being demolished during the Revolution, but would eventually be used as a flower store, a club room for the Section de la Cité, and finally a store for archiving old papers, which effectively saved it since it served the people. It bore a sign proclaiming national property for sale until 1837. All the sacred vessels and precious books had long since disappeared. A really interesting bit of European history, by the way, is how cathedrals were built and what sort of what purpose they serve. Obviously, they serve as a religious work, but what's really interesting about cathedrals is that it seems to be sort of this event that a whole city got together around in the construction for. And there's a film by Orson Welles. It's quite a good one called F for Fake, and he has this really nice monologue about cathedrals. I might play it sometime during the stream if we have an opportunity. So, Café Theatre. Opened on Ile Saint-Louis in 1759, the Café Theatre was one of Paris's premier coffee houses for decades. Intellectuals, poets, philosophers, and actors flocked to its tables, and the salon was a center of political debate and discussion. Over the years, though, cafes like the Café Procopre gradually supplanted it in prominence. By 1790, Café Theatre was a shabby rundown place, more likely to host a second-rate bawdy comedy show than an impassioned debate. It experienced a resurgence during the Revolution, and even opened several satellite locations around Paris, and remained a fixture of the city's intelligentsia through World War I. It was also a central clearinghouse for the Parisian Brotherhood's intelligence gathering network, a concept that is so adorably French, I don't even have words for it. The Hospice des Enfants Trouve. The meticulous chronicler Sébastien Mercier left evidence of the tens of thousands of children abandoned in Paris. Mercier spoke of those exposed children who are often left on the steps of churches, the most famous among them being the philosopher d'Alembert, or in the towns of convents. The Hôpital de la Charité, or Charity Hospital, was supposed to accommodate them with the income from certain fines, but new facilities were needed. With financial support of Chancellor Dallegrie, a city square and a market bear his name, Queen Maria Theresa founded the hospice in 1670, situated on what is now the Square Trousseau. A subsidiary establishment would be built on the forecourt of Notre Dame. Hôtel Dieu. This is the oldest hospital in Paris, dating to the mid-7th century. It was originally started as a refuge for the poor and sick, funded by the nobility as a charity. By the time of the Revolution, it had earned a terrible reputation. Those who died here were more likely to have contracted a disease inside its walls than its outside. I hope that was their corporate slogan. The hospital has undergone numerous renovations over the years, but it still serves as an emergency center for the first 9 arrondissements of Paris. They must be thrilled. I don't know what that means. Anyways. Place Dauphine. In 1601, Henri IV announced that a public square, triangular in fact, would be created and given to the first president of the parliament, Achille de Harlay, who remained loyal to Henri during the Wars of Religion. Harlay divided the square, situated away from the traffic on the bridge, into 12... I'm glad you like them, Sid. Situated away from the traffic on the bridge into 12 lots in 1608. The houses built were rented by artisans, tailors, printers, booksellers, and officers of the nearby Palais de Justice. Up in 1633, one of the main attractions of this square, then a clutter of little houses, was the trestle stage used by the famous Parisian farceur Tabrien, Antoine Giraud, who put on short Italian-style performances with his brother and their little theater troupe. His motto was, "The world is merely deceived by charlatans." Acting the tabrin, faire le tabrin in French, became a proverb that literally no one ever used. And I think we're at the end with the statue of Henri IV. The original horse was cast in Florence and shipped to Paris in 1614 to await the king. A stallion stood riderless upon its pedestal for 21 years and was referred to by Parisians simply as the Bronze Horse. At last the rider was made, Henri IV, the Protestant king who, before taking the crown, survived the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre. To stabilize his throne, he converted to Catholicism, possibly uttering the apocryphal remark, "Paris is worth a mass." Although much beloved by his people, he was assassinated while riding in his carriage by a religious fanatic, François Ravaillac, in 1610. During the Revolution, the spot on which his statue stands was used as a meeting point and even a recruiting office for volunteers willing to fight the Prussians. And I believe that is it for history for now, so I will do a slightly... Oh, no, we've got miscellaneous. Events. I guess it was the auto de fe that I didn't read. So auto de fe. An auto de fe, from the Portuguese, or act of faith, was originally a ritual of the Inquisition, wherein the accused made proof of their good faith. However, since the ritual generally ended with the accused being burnt at the stake, in the popular mind, auto de fe came to mean the burning itself. The term came to France during the Revolution and was turned inside out, now meaning a revolutionary act of faith against Christian clerics. Songs? Enough of that. La Patriote, 1791. The armies of Prince Bishop... Oh, wait, we've already read this.
Oh, Arno. What have you done? I know we didn't part on the best of terms, but to go running to the assassins? My father kept you away from them for a reason. Their creed is like wine. Sweet enough at first blush, and in moderation it makes life seem more bearable. But drink too deeply, and you find naught but madness and anarchy. No doubt they've already filled your mind with tales of how dreadful we Templars are, that we would make slaves of humanity and place our boots on the world's neck. You knew my father, and you know me. I can only pray that is enough to give the lie to those tales. My order has turned against me, and I am hunted by those I once called friend. I could not bear it if you turned against me also. Think of me, and be well, Elise.
I like that a lot. So obviously, the really important thing here, so I think most people when they think about the French Revolution are going to think about things like the guillotine. But it's actually worth remembering that at this point in history for the game, I'm not 100% on when this is exactly, but I believe we are still under a monarchy. And the Reign of Terror, which people normally associate with the French Revolution, happened quite a bit after some of the events that are portrayed in the game. Now, I'm sure we'll get there, but when you think about, you know, one of the common themes through through the Assassin's Creed games, this tension between the assassins who have as their motto, you know, everything is, you know, is permitted. And then you have the Templars, which feel that, you know, if humanity left to its own devices, will ultimately destroy itself. Almost a sort of Hobbesian view. It's actually really funny because when I first heard about Hobbes, I was really opposed to it because I've always been very uncomfortable with sort of totalitarianism and absolute power in the hands of one person. Of course, Hobbes talks about the sovereign. But in some ways, you can actually see some very, I want to say progressive. Progressive kind of means something a bit different now. But it's very different from what you think when you think of a king with absolute unchecked power. And of course, Hobbes is writing after the Civil War, and he writes very convincingly. So what's really interesting about the French Revolution, in addition to it being an incredibly important part of history, is that it's a really great setting for one of the central tensions of the game, which is that, you know, for the first Assassin's Creed game and the, you know, the Ezio ones, it's fairly clear that the assassins are the good guys and the Templars are the bad guys. Especially for the Ezio stories, you have, you know, you have the Borgias as a main antagonist usually. Not always, but generally the Templars are not as sympathetic. And I mean, Ezio himself is such a charismatic character. And then, of course, in Assassin's Creed 3, they really start going into... I mean, already in Revelations, they talk a bit about some of the tensions in the creed itself. I think Ezio's given some lines to sort of as a bit of an apologia for the you know, for the Brotherhood. And then Assassin's Creed 3 has that really wonderful reveal. I would actually, so Johnny Big Time really likes Connor. One of the problems for me is that you start the game as Haytham Kenway, and I like Haytham so much that I almost think Connor's kind of overshadowed by him in some cases. Connor has some great moments in the game, don't get me wrong, but I think Assassin's Creed 3 really did this wonderful job of showing you the other side. Now, again, the Templars are still the bad guys, and I'm more or less certain that it will always be so, but especially when you take on things like the French Revolution, something like, you know, an example where you have ideals which, especially, I know I have a lot of American viewers, something that has a fairly ready mapping from the American Revolution to the French one, and sort of the suggestion that the American Revolution might have awoken something inside of France. I think that's partially true, but I also think you really can't ignore the fact that these financial crises sort of preceded the general unrest. And in fact, you might even say that the inability to deal with the financial crisis in this transition period that we're playing in the game might have led to even worse. But in any case, when you take a look at something like the French Revolution, almost like the revolution gone wrong, if you believe so. For instance, I believe the Communist Party in France was quite critical of this game, saying that it's the same batch of myths that people have been told about the French Revolution. I just really like the fact that it's an example of where you can take sort of the assassin's ideals and sort of criticize them, especially through a lens of history. So, really, I was told that Syndicate was quite a good game, but anyways, how you doing, The Exception? All right. Erod A. Mariam fails to impress. This clipping from a newspaper dated the 12th of July, 1782. It is badly crumpled, as though someone once watered it up into a small ball. Theatrical review by, is that Mademoiselle Le Couvrier? Anyways, no, Madame? I don't actually know what that abbreviation is. Last evening, I had the pleasure, if indeed pleasure it can be called, of seeing very nearly the worst production of Voltaire's Héros de Mariam at Café Theatre on Île-Saint-Louis. Never has a tragic death of a queen of Judea been rendered with more glaring ineptitude. Monsieur Dupree's Herod has all the pathos of a fishmonger who is especially ashamed of his day's catch, and Arquide's Mariam seems to do little more than wail like a child denied a treat. As to the supporting cast, I shall only say that the director would have been better served by releasing a dozen Barbary apes into the theatre. That, at least, might have incited the audience to a modicum of excitement. As to the sets and costuming, which should richly evoke the ancient world of Jerusalem, the director's vision seems limited to papier-mâché temples and badly unconvincing false beards. Theatre is a world of imagination, to be sure, but this cheap, shoddy production resembles nothing so much as a small children picking up sticks and proclaiming themselves Mousquetaires de la Garde. In short, I hated the play. I hated this play. If you, good readers, have any respect for Monsieur Rauet's work, I caution you to stay far, far away. Journal of Thomas de Carnelion, October 12, 1307. It is done. All is in readiness. There is naught left to do but wait for the coming of the dawn. Mentor Guillaume de Noguert has bent the king's will to ours, and with Benedict dead at Pergia, Rome is with us as well. And yet I find my heart gripped with sudden misgivings. Dante and Domenico assure me that this is a great victory, that we will annihilate them root and branch. But I wonder, in breaking the Templars' public facade, are we merely driving them into the shadows? 50 years ago, the Templars thought us destroyed, after all. Vanishing from the public eye has proven our greatest strength in this interminable war. Are we soon now granting the same boon to our enemies? Johnny and I are on the same page with Assassin's Creed games, it seems like. All right, I thank you guys for indulging me in the reading, but I know some people do like hearing me talk about things. So let's find ourselves a quest. I think I won't do side quests, but I will grab the cockades and the chests when I'm in a district. That seems to be a fairly decent way that I can get a little bit of the side action in. And there are some lovely people in chat tonight. Out of curiosity, everybody who is watching right now, how many of you have a GOG account? Oop. So maybe a little overzealous there, Arno. And trust me, it is in your interest to say if you have a GOG account or not. There's no right or wrong answer to it, but if you respond, there's another half to this. Docs has 4 games. All right. Eyes of Sin does. Johnny Big Time does. And the only other one I think I've seen talk is The Exception. This must be inside. Red Strings Club on it, and that's about it. Ah, I remember you bought that from me, Eyes of Sin. I appreciate that. Okay. Question number 2. Who among you have played the game Soma?
I've got a great game where I rip your bloody head. Get your ass over here.
Your wish is my command, sir. I'm sorry that I didn't get to see your full playthrough, Johnny, but I really liked having you in chat while I played it. Ah, damn it. How am I going to get this thief? Sacre bleu! Does that count? Nope. Okay, so between Eyes of Sin and Doc's Gaming, do either of you want to play the game Soma? If you were my football coach, I'd be running laps for not catching that guy the first time. That's totally fair. All right. So where is our next mission? Normally there's a big exclamation mark. Not really big into horror? Sin, are you into horror? Oh, there's another cockade. You do not plan on playing it yourself. Okay. Well, that makes things complicated for me. Who here has played the game Reigns or seen it? I didn't know you played foot. I feel like that's something that you've told me that you've done before, Johnny. Sorry about the lag there. Doc's game is a fan of Reigns. Uh-oh. I don't know what I did to piss these guys off, but I feel really bad about it. God, that would have looked so cool if that didn't get hit by the lag spikes. I'm sorry, guys. I think that would be reasonably correct. So there's 3 types of fencing that you can do if you're thinking about like the sport. There's foil, épée, and saber. Foil is probably like the most narrow of the swords, and you can only sort of hit people on the torso. Épée, you basically can hit anywhere, including on the toe, and it counts as a hit. And saber's the one that's actually slashing. So with this particular sword, definitely, you know, this thing is a little bit more slashy. But there's an entire history to sort of the structure of swords, part of which has to do with sort of blacksmithing technology at the time. And then also possibly just fashions. So like apparently, you know, you wouldn't... Oh, did I already get this? Nope, I didn't. Yeah, I'm just a big old nerd. Eyes of Sin. But yeah, apparently, like, you know, if you're coming after a guy with like a broadsword, you're gonna have a harder time of, you know, you're gonna have a harder time against a guy with a little dinky rapier. But I mean, if you can land a hit, you're gonna finish that fight pretty quick. But yeah, I don't know as much about the history of it as I should. I also don't know how much fencing actually corresponds with real sword play. Because I've actually used a longsword before at a place called Academy Duello in the Grand Chalet. Marked by an imposingly tall square tower, this prison was once a fortress located in the heart of the city at the Place de Grève. It enjoyed a particularly sinister reputation. This is yet another construction by the indefatigable Louis VI the Fat, who wanted to defend the Grand Pont Bridge, since replaced by the Pont au Change. Set in the middle of what had been a particularly squalid district, it served as the headquarters of the Prévôt de Paris, or Provost Marshal, who essentially ruled over the city, along with his lieutenants and his 48 advisors. Justice was dealt out swiftly within these walls. Whereas the Bastille was demolished in just a few frenzied weeks, the Grand Chalet was put to fresh use by the Reign of Terror, housing prisoners that would fall victim during the September massacres. Finally, the prison itself fell to Napoleon, who wanted it razed. That's a small man complex for you, constantly wanting to bring things down to their level. Napoleon was not that small, by the way. Oh, sounds like I'm in line to be the 4th ex-Mrs. Eyes of Sin. Can't commit to the discussion on French European swords, but Japanese swords have a similar fashion. They're all extremely anti-longswords since the Miyamoto Musashi. That's cool. Hopefully they don't know. No, that would be awesome to see like a grand melee between between the X's. Johnny Big Time took Japanese sword for a few months, did not really like it. It was kind of boring. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. Amongst illustrious occupants were Francois Villon, Clement Marot, poisoner Antoine Francois Duret, and the Marquis de Favre in 1790 before being hanged. It engendered the word morgue in French, which, in the 15th century, meant face, in its verbal form, to stare at. The Chalet's jailers were stared at their victims, no doubt with contempt, so that they would be able to identify them in case they escaped. The word morgue came to be used to designate the cells. It also sounds a lot like my days in the British public school system, just with less random violence. All right, so my question here for Eyes of Sin and Johnny Big Time is, could either of you go check out a trailer of Reigns and tell me whether or not it's your kind of thing? Bonjour! Alright, you know what? Cockade's not worth it. I'm gonna go bully some criminals. R-E-I-G-N-S. I should have reset my computer. Okay, good to know, Johnny Big Time. You are gonna... Oh. What the devil is going on with my... All right. I'm gonna go to this viewpoint, and then we'll do our next mission. I think I've danced around enough. I'm a little concerned with the some of the encoding problems I've got, because it's not clear to me whether or not they're internet ones or whether or not they're performance ones. They could very well be both because I didn't reset my computer before. All I needed to hear. So just bear with me a quick second. Sorry. Trying to fix things. Okay. Cemetery des Saints Innocents. Originally the street leading to Saint Denis, outside the ramparts of the Roman capital, which mainly occupied the left bank, served as the city's cemetery. Just to say, you're about to read my favorite historical nickname of all time. Louis VI the Fat, who had already overseen the construction of Les Halles, had Saint Innocent built in 1130. Its cemetery would become the cemetery of all the churches of Paris, which made for an unprecedented concentration of dead bodies. A plague epidemic would bring about thousands of deaths in just the space of a few weeks. In the 1400s, improvements were made, partially paid for and designed by Nicolas Flamel. The whole was overseen by a macabre mural of the Dance of Death. Just prior to the Revolution, the bodies were disinterred and moved to the catacombs beneath Paris. All right. See, yeah, what Johnny's talking about, so at Academy Duello I also did Bartitsu, so I was able to sort of experience jiu-jitsu, but not Brazilian. Les Halles, yet another city within a city. Les Halles was appropriately known as the belly of Paris, since this is where Parisians bought their groceries in the morning. There's a frat French bloke downstairs we call the belly of Paris too. Before becoming a market, it was an expansive little fields confirmed by the names of two streets, Rue de Petit Champ and Rue de la Croix des Petits Champs. The market operated until 1866, when the architect Victor Beltrand completed his massive glass and iron market pavilions after 12 years' work. It was a model that all of Europe would imitate, not until the 1970s, when it was finally pulled down and replaced by the present-day concrete jungle, over which a huge glass canopy was recently installed. Sorry, I'm just double-checking my messages. Oh, somebody found it. No problem. Would you like to tell chat what you just got? Église Saint-Eustache? I don't know. The second biggest church in Paris is situated at the center of Les Halles. It started out as a modest chapel dedicated to Saint Agnes, a Roman martyr. Later, relics of Saint Eustache were brought to the church, and that saint, whose symbol is a large stag deer overseen by a cross, became the church's namesake. With the development of the central market of Les Halles, the parish church became too small. The current church took 105 years to construct, 1532 to 1637. Its Gothic structure and Renaissance detail, to say nothing of its dimensions, make it a surprising edifice. Moreover, it curves to the north, since it was built along the line formed by the Rue Trenet, Rambuteau, since no one wanted to expropriate the shopkeepers who were installed there. Oop. It is missing its southernmost tower. Yes. So one of the reasons why I'm doing this right now is GOG currently has a summer sale going on. Actually, let me just take a quick look and see. They usually have some stuff on the headline. So the finale is going on right now. There's a big cyberpunk sort of drive going on right now, but some big games. Actually, you know what? Tell you what. Let's take a quick moment for some advertising. Streamception. All right, so here's GOG. I've already got myself a copy of Sunless Sea from buying stuff during the GOG sale. Some new games which are I think either getting their first discounts or fairly deep ones. Kingdom Come Deliverance and Into the Breach both have 20% off. These are fairly recent games and fairly good ones. I will also mention that these particular prices are in Canadian for me. So if you live in a region which uses a different currency, you'll see those as well. June 18th is the end of the sale, so if you do get a key during this stream, do feel free to to use them before then. Otherwise, it won't work. A couple of other things to keep in mind: if you have a GOG account, it's really important that you click this Connect Now button. Because if you have these games on Steam and you've connected your Steam account, you will also get a GOG copy for free. So if you have a Machine for Pigs, FTL, Hotline Miami, Jotun, Kingdoms, Legend of Grimrock, Prison Architect, Psychonauts, The Banner Saga, Banished, Starpoint Gemini 2, or Tempest, those, if you own them on Steam, you will get a DRM free copy on GOG. In addition, in terms of highlights, right now, obviously CD Projekt owns GOG, so Witcher Game of the Year Edition is a 60% off. Darkest Dungeon 60% off. There's a new DLC coming out for that fairly soon. Spellforce, I think this is the first time it's gotten a discount. Dead Cells is a pretty good game, 33%. I believe it's still in early access, if that matters to you. Obviously, this platform is also well known for some of its older games, so you can pick up Doom 3 and Fallout at very attractive prices. For those of you who are watching early on in the week, Surviving Mars is 30% off. If you'd prefer to get a copy off of Paradox Plaza, it's also 30% there as well. I'm quite partial to Off-World Trading Company, although I should caution you that Off-World Trading Company does not seem to have connectivity with the Steam copy of the game. So if you prefer to play multiplayer for a game like this, I should caution you that you will probably have an easier time finding another player on Steam. Incidentally, one thing I can definitely recommend is if you unlock Sunless Sea by buying, I believe if you spend $5, you'll get Sunless Sea, but it'll tell you on the main page as well. This is normally Submariner has been 33% off. It is now half off. So for $7 Canadian, you can get the expansion. Hellblade's Newest Sacrifice, 30% off. I didn't know Frostpunk was on sale, so that's another early one. Again, it's 10%, but it's I think that counts for something. Dreadfire is also on sale. Deserts of Karak, if you like real-time strategy games, this is a fairly decent one, 75% off. Firewatch, 60% off. Oh, I didn't know Mirror's Edge was on here, so $3.89 if you're Canadian. 15% off for Hand of Fate 2. I quite like the Hand of Fate series. This War of Mine is a spectacular game. If you don't have that and you like sort of crafting style games or survival games, this War of Mine is pretty much a must-own. Cuphead. Oh, here's a really good one to mention. If you liked Homeworld, the expansion, which has been retitled, I believe is only available on GOG. This is the basic one, Homeworld Remastered Collection, so I believe that's Homeworld 1 and 2. But worth keep in mind. I am a very big fan of, excuse me one second, Tyranny. I know people seem to like it less than Pillars of Eternity. I believe the opposite. I actually much prefer Tyranny to Pillars of Eternity. And of course, if you're a big fan of the old Infinity Engine game, Icewind Dale, Baldur's Gate 2, as well as Baldur's Gate 1 are available. I believe I have Baldur's Gate 1 on this, so it's not recommending it to me. Age of Wonders is another really good game if you like 4X but want a fantasy setting. If you do like RPGs, a very, very big recommendation for Shadowrun Dragonfall Director's Cut. It's possibly one of the best. It's possibly the best of the Shadowrun series. The other ones should be available too. I actually got these on Steam, which is why it says I don't have them. But I did these on stream, and they are some of the most popular streams that I've done. Ori the Blind Forest, Definitive Editions half off. Deus Ex, 75% off if you'd like to relive that experience. I mean, less than $5, and I'm Canadian. Yeah, lots of good stuff. Also, I did not know that XCOM was now on GOG. So a solid 80% off for XCOM on GOG if you'd like a DRM free copy. And I should mention that there is a slightly better version than what is on Steam with the original XCOM game. So you can play the Julian Gollop ones. So if you are in the cyberpunk mood, because of course we just had the Cyberpunk 2077 trailer, or the most recent one, come out. It's a big list of Cyberpunk-style games, including 33% off the Red Strings Club. I'm actually quite partial to Uplink for, like, if you're looking for like a less than $2 game, I like Uplink quite a bit. It's an older one, it's 2001, but definitely worth it. But yeah, the point that I'm making here, there's a lot of really good stuff on the GOG summer sale. I haven't flogged it as much as I probably should have because I've just been dealing with some of this other stuff. But if you would like to put a little bit of support with the for the stream, you can follow that link there. If you don't have a GOG account, even signing up for GOG using that link does help me out. And there are, in my opinion, there's some really good deals. I did actually pick up a big batch of Star Wars games, which is what got me Sunless Sea. So in addition to the fact that you can get some good deals on games, you'll also get some free ones just by putting a bit of money towards it. So thank you for indulging me during my my sales pitch. But every time you guys sit through one of those, somebody gets a key. And in this case, Eyes of Sin was awarded a copy of Reigns. I quite like Reigns. Reigns, I think, is intended to be played on phones, but I think the gameplay is not lost on the computer. It's just a little bit different. I think the thing I like the most about Reigns is that it's about trying to manage important events, but only through having two choices. So it's a little bit like, you know, if you think about, so the best way you can think about Reigns is like it's ruling via Tinder. Let's watch a beautiful scenery. Whee!
Oh, that's right.
I haven't actually played Ori yet, Johnny Big Time. I have a copy of it, but it's kind of one of these cases where I have a little bit too much in my library, and I need to prioritize. One of the things that's worth remembering about GOG too is that I originally got it so that I could play some classics, but I have since I've been on GOG, I know it better. Ah, very good point, Isaacson. I missed those. Like, GOG really is it's a genuine storefront. The main reason why you would want to use GOG over, say, Steam or something like that is that all of the games that you will get are DRM free. So in the case of GOG, basically, if you want to use their client called GOG Galaxy, you can, but you don't have to. The thing is not going to phone back in every time you want to play a game. And while that seems like a minor point to some, it's actually, for me, it was a really big deal because I had Democracy 3 when I was in grad school. And, oh, god damn it. Did I get the cockade? Huh. Nope. Football! So one of the problems that I ran into with Democracy 3 was that on Steam, if I wasn't connected to an internet connection, I couldn't actually start. I could get to the main menu, but it wouldn't let me start the game. And so what I normally had to do was, oh, if we're in sequence 5, I should be able to get a higher level of pickpocket. So basically, I'd have to open up the game when I was at home, and then I'd close my laptop, and then I would open it on the bus if I wanted to play. So I'm not going to say that everybody is going to be in my complete sequence 5. I'm not going to say that everybody's going to be in the same boat as me, but this is a great example of how a game was, you know, unnecessarily difficult to start because of digital rights management. And basically, to get on the GOG store, the reason why you don't see some of the bigger games on the GOG store right away is that they have to give you a DRM free option. Now you can still like opt in for things like, you know, log in with your Paradox account to get the most difficult level of surviving Mars. That sort of stuff is still there. But basically, if you don't want to have a client to phone in each time you start the game, GOG is for you. If you want, you know, you can just download the game off the website. If you want to manage them using GOG Galaxy, it's definitely convenient, but you don't have to. It has the fair price policy. This is a bigger deal for me when Steam wasn't accepting Canadian dollars, but basically there's that rather unfortunate pricing practice where people will, you know, they'll say, okay, the game costs 20 of the local currency. It's like, well, if it's British pounds, you're kind of screwed. And if it's yen, you're really happy. So basically, if you are paying more as a result of sort of the foreign currency, you will get credit to the GOG store to make up the difference, and that comes out of their pocket. And then finally, there is the, I mean, obviously there's some refunds now, but basically, in terms of refunds on the GOG channel, there's a genuine good faith effort made to get the game working. Obviously, a lot of the classic games, they put a lot of TLC into getting them running, but sometimes if for whatever reason you can't get it going, you get the full refund. It's a little bit different from Steam now. I know Steam basically says you can play the game for 2 hours, and if you don't like it, you get a full refund. It doesn't work exactly like that, but I think especially when you're a little uncertain for things like, say, Fallout 3, which I know had difficulty with certain what was it? Like operating systems. That's for me, that was one that was very appealing. It's actually why I got Fallout 3 on GOG. All right, hashtag ad.
All right, Lafreniere, where are you hiding?
It's got a lot sunnier. I don't want to throw this thing. Did you just shove me, sir? I just want to shoot these guys. Alright, simplest is best. Anyways, needless to say, guys, if you, especially if you're waiting for other sales on other platforms, there's some stuff that you can get only on GOG, but also some people in chat just mentioned some really good games. So I haven't played Hollow Knight yet, for instance. And I'd encourage you in the last few days of the sale, check out what you might like. At the end of the 12th century, King Philippe Auguste established different markets and fairs in a place called Les Champeaux, which was later evolved into the Les Alcoter. However, as the markets grew, the streets around became increasingly congested. Shipping grain through the traffic became complicated and slow. In the 18th century, the city of Paris decided to simplify the grain transport and stocking by building more easily accessible Halles aux Blés. The land was purchased in 1755, and a ring-shaped structure was built there. Initially roofless, in 1782, a wooden cupola was added to protect the grain from rain and other weather events. It's unbelievable that it took that long. Hey, let's store all our grain in this big wide open thing. Oui, but we should add a roof to protect our precious stock from the elements, contamination, wildlife, and theft. I think it's fine, little Jimmy Nerdface. Run along now. After several fires, the building received an iron cupola at the end of the 19th century. It no longer contains grain, but is kept in use as Paris's goods exchange.
That is a distressingly large number of guns. Lafreniere must be planning something big.
Shoot him. Shoot. Shoot gun. Left button. Shoot gun. Well. Shoot gun. Shoot gun. Shoot gun. Shoot gun. Hello, Captain Zerge. How are you doing? You got lucky today, mon ami.
Can't stop us. You're mine.
Sakura Blue, that's a lot of guys. All right. I am in a bit of trouble now. You're happy your ancestors left France before I showed up? Let me finish looting your buddies. Ah! I mean, I'm sure there was a stealthy approach I could have done, but I really wanted to try and shoot the gun. There'll be no history here. There was absolutely no guy who took on a room full of guards, took a bullet to the face, and called it a day. But maybe I'll survive if I find some medicine on these guys. Alright. I think that sorts it all out. I can't believe the game lets you do that. Oh, did you miss the excitement, sir? Not quite what I want to do, but good effort. Bonjour.
Whatever he's planning, it's big. And now I know where to find you, Grandmaster. It hardly seems safe just to leave these lying around.
Nom de Dieu! The powder stores! They're going to blow!
No, of course it can't be that easy, can it?
Oh mon Dieu! Oh, okay, well. Oh, there we go.
Maybe I should have thought this through.
You definitely should have, Arno. That's on you. Sacre bleu! Let me up. Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to get used to the controls of this game. I hate to admit it, but this is actually kind of one of the dilemmas I have with this game is I don't know if it's the controls or what, but this feels like it should be a lot more exciting than it really is. I feel like I should be able to jump up onto the... Gah. Okay, well, screw you, Arno. Yeah, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, maybe it's not intended to be played on mouse and keyboard, or maybe I'm just too dumb for the game, but... I think I had this complaint with, was it Assassin's Creed 3 as well? Sometimes it doesn't quite feel as action-packed.
Maybe I should have thought this through.
I haven't played any of the Deponia games yet. Is it? Oh, god damn it. No, I didn't want to... I don't care how you do it, but could you please get down, Arno? feel like I need to get up here. Can I? Okay. Fair enough.
Hide in plain sight. Right.
Medici's Tower. This tower was the last vestige of a royal palace that was built under Catherine de' Medici, the great-granddaughter of Lorenzo the Magnificent. Catherine was interested in the predictions of the predictions of the future. She was a patron of Nostradamus and allowed the astronomer Ruggieri to use this tower to observe the heavens from the iron enclosure at the top. Alright, it will be spectacular if I get to kill those criminals by jumping down from here, but I don't think it will let me. Yeah, they're not even visible anymore. Alright, let's find a new mission. Alright, normally I'd like to pick up like chests and stuff like that on the way, but it's a straight line and there's nothing, so I'll grab this one chest and we'll call it even. I'm curious what you guys think of the game so far. I know it's probably not a little loaded for me to ask, to say that like... Ow! That was uncalled for, sir. I died anyway. Alright, well, screw that. But yeah, so obviously when I'm complaining about the controls and stuff like that, it's maybe not the best time to ask, but I'm curious what you guys think of the game. Because there's some parts of it I like. There are some parts that sort of mar the experience for me, I think. Yeah, well actually I'm a bit I'm in the same boat as you, Captain Zerge. Like I totally get, especially when I get hit by these you know, like when I get hammered with a little bit of a lag spike or something like that, especially when I haven't reset the computer or something like oh damn it. Alright. I'm gonna take the high road to try and get that thief. I hope I caused that fight. And I suspect that if I extrapolate that and say that there were more of those that occurred... I really wanted to do a flying tackle from the... Mrah, not so tough now. Mrah. Yeah, I mean, for all the hate that this game got, I feel like, I mean, like pretty much every game controversy, it was, I wonder if that's coffee. I kind of feel like the hate for this thing was overblown. I'm definitely on Sin's side, saying this is probably one of the best looking Assassin's Creed games, and that's saying something. Like, Assassin's Creed is a very handsome series, but I will say one thing I have not been able to get over are the controls. I just generally feel like the other games made it kind of effortless to do cool things. And here I sometimes feel like I'm struggling a little bit with basic controls. And the story I'm 50-50 on. There are some things I really like, and I really like the setting. And then there are other things where I'm kind of meh. And I sometimes think this is just me being spoiled by having lots of good games to play. The Grandmaster of the Paris Rite, Chrétien Lafrenière, is rallying his forces at Le Cimetière des Innocents. Kill him and stop the attack.
You'll be reinforced before the Master arrives. We'll post snipers on the roofs. The instructions are all here. Get to it.
Think we should go with them?
The Master's elite bodyguards? I think they can handle it.
Suppose you're right.
I'd better find myself a place to wait before the rest of them arrive.
So I do like the way that they set up the assassination missions. So start by exploring the area, create opportunities, and 4 entrances, 5 hiding spots, 42 guards, 4 alarm bells, and a partridge in a pear tree. All right. Let's see if I can do this properly stealthy. Okay, more guards around that bell. Okay, I'm gonna try some. I cannot believe that worked. Crap. We'll see if they actually come after me. Oh, yeah. What did you think of EU4, Captain Sergey? Damn it. Hey, TrippyTube. Well, I struggled quite a bit to get into Europa when I first saw it.
Exactly where Lafrenière will be every step of the way. They couldn't have made it easier if they'd tried.
I mean, I say that, but I did just use 2 smoke bombs. Especially after playing Crusader Kings 2, I found it a bit of a challenge to
Got you now.
to get into originally. Oh. It takes a little bit of getting used to, especially if you've played another. I actually don't know if it's better to have played a Paradox game before or not.
So the Master's bodyguards have to dig them out. Seems excessive.
Bastards are fighting back. Dug in like ticks.
They'd best be dead by the time the Master arrives. I don't want him vulnerable.
Okay, well, I'll get that last bell. Uh-oh. But I quite like EU4. I will admit I kind of only play as Holland right now, but that's just because I'm interested in Holland.
I'll have your ears strung together. I'll have your head for that.
Oh, okay. Well. Oh, here we go.
That's it. Enough. Spider. You're the wrong man, soldier. Just the right yard. I'll gather up the others. We'll hold position here. Cover your escape if you need it. Successful out.
So how did that happen, Captain Zergay? Did they wind up in the same war as you were in, or did you get did you start an aggressive war with them? Apparently, I just used up all my medicine. Okay, apparently I wait in a haystack now. Ah! This sucks. And was there an alliance that formed?
I love it when the target comes to me.
Ah, yes, that makes sense.
Hey, you there! Stop!
Hey, it's Al-Mualim.
The truth is in peril, my brothers.
She is beset on all quarters. Jacobins lay her on the rack, cruelly breaking her to their populist agenda.
Chrétien Lafrenière, born in 1730 as the third son of a wealthy importer of spices, Chrétien Lafrenière was destined for the church. He studied at Sorbonne and entered seminary school in 1750, but when his father and elder siblings died in a shipwreck off the coast of Mauritius, he left the seminary to take the reins of the family's business. Most of his income, however, seems to have been spent joining and founding numerous secret societies and fringe religious groups. By the time of the Revolution, he was living in hiding, likely from creditors. Still, he probably had lots of lovely membership cards and newsletters to read.
Truth are not so easily dissuaded. Union, strength, virtue. Ready yourselves, brothers. Tonight, the truth is on our side.
It's a little over dramatic in his death, but it's fine. That was his chance to. Crap, who saw me? Alright, well, I'm not going anywhere near those guys.
Is all in readiness?
Oui, monsieur. The men know their duties. The bastards won't escape us tonight.
Good. The enemy has thwarted us for the last time.
As you say, master.
Come to me. Surprise!
Then rise, my brother. And be welcome.
You don't trust the man, do you?
Mirabeau is a good man, an honest man.
Mirabeau is a self-aggrandizing drunk.
Do not forget who is Grand Master here, Lafrenière.
Take this to Grand Master de la Serre immediately. Deliver it to him in person.
Yes, Master. Master, we have a problem. Christophe has been feeding information to our enemies. We must assume this location is compromised.
We'll have to move up our timetable. Gather the men. We strike Clotel de Beauvais tonight.
Sacre bleu! I kind of thought, damn it. I kind of thought I would do a cool, Jesus Christ. I thought I'd do a cool, double kill, but... What a moment to finish in.
Initiate Bishop here. You're in good shape so far. I'd like to give you a little boost. We've made a major breakthrough on our side. Through deep data analysis, we've discovered that the sage we're looking for was a Templar Grandmaster, the same man Arnaud was hunting. It doesn't get much better than that. There, everything's been updated. Use them wisely. We'll be in touch.
New assassin abilities have been locked in your skills menu. One-handed weapon master, long weapon master, heavy weapon master, roll recovery, double air assassination, thicker skin, journeyman locksmith. To buy them all, you need sync points. And to earn you can earn sync points by completing single-player missions or in co-op missions by collecting sync point collectibles. He was killed, possibly sacrificed, during a satanic black mass in the Cimetière des Innocents in late March 1791. Assassin 3, Templar Zeros. Still, you have to admire the Templars' revisionist streak here. If you're not with us, you're a reprobate devil worshipper. History is written by the victors, after all, and in this case, the victors are utter bastards. Okay, let's see where we are, and let's see if we can do anything before our next big mission. And most importantly, I want to start unlocking... Okay, cool. So I'm going to spend a little bit time off the story, and this is just so I can collect some items, especially because I'm going to get a higher level of lock picking. So roll recovery, reduce damage. Okay, don't need to worry about that. An instantly fatal area attack against 2 nearby. Okay, yes, I want that. No training montage. Always fade out in a montage, though. If you fade out, it seems like more time has passed in a montage. Montage. How many of you have seen Team America, out of curiosity? So the one thing I do find kind of interesting is, obviously I've talked a lot about how I find the setting of the French Revolution interesting. But it's also the one thing that hasn't been moving forward in the story. We're still sort of in this intermediate. Could I please jump on him?
Stop there, citizen!
Bonjour. The guy's dangling on my sword. Okay, I'll kill the criminals after I get the goods. The snarky footnotes alone make me think that I'd fit in well with the assassin. It's really just the one character. But yes, I do find him somewhat relatable for reasons that I don't really know. Can't imagine, really. Alright, well, I was really hoping to do a cool double air assassination, but... Actually, you know what? Here's something that I'll do. We were talking a little bit earlier about cathedrals. So while I am...
This.
So while I'm doing Oh, actually, this won't work because I need to... Well, there's a way I can make this work. You get to see two things. So this is... I quite like this monologue from F for Fake. This is about Chartres Cathedral. Sorry, I did not pronounce that correctly. I won't be able to read chat during this, but I'll just let it speak for itself, and I'll let you guys say what you think after it's done, and I'll play the game while it's going on.
Now this has been standing here for centuries. The premier work of man, perhaps.
Oh
in the
God,
whole
sorry.
Western world. And it's without a signature. Chartres. Celebration to God's glory and to the dignity of man. Well, all that's left, most artists seem to feel these days, is man. Naked. Poor. Forked radish. Around any celebrations. Ours, the scientists keep telling us, is a universe which is disposable. You know, it might be just this one anonymous glory. Of all things, this rich stone forest, this epic chant, this gaiety, this grand, firing shout of affirmation, which we choose, when all our cities are dust, to stand intact, to mark where we have been, to testify to what we had in us. Our works in stone, paint, and print are spared some for a few decades, but everything is
must pay attention and stay alert.
wear away.
Oh no, God's
All right, you know what? This isn't working out. This game's too loud, so sorry about that, guys. I will find another way of incorporating this at another time. Let me try and let me get all the other things back up. I actually really screwed up my layout from doing that, but I will show that I will show that bit. Damn it. Uh-oh. Oh, and I'm losing frames now. Okay. Let's realign everything. So yeah, I'll try and maybe take care of that at the end of the cast or something like that, but my apologies for not planning that out a little bit better. I thought it might be something good to put on while
Nothing from me, you mongrels.
well, looks like I was too late. Holy crap. 10,000 livres.
You faggot.
Anytime Arno. Yeah, these controls are a little wacky. So fortunately, the 10,000 livres will give me enough money for medicine. Jesus. You can indeed. I've never done it. I do wind up... Actually, the funny thing is that the Dutch colonies that I found are very similar to the ones that the Dutch actually founded. But yeah, I've yet to do a Canada playthrough in EU4. All right, ideally I'll find a place for... ideally I'll find a place for some... to get some goods. Oh yes, I also need to stop by the Pont de Change. The bridge owes its name to the goldsmiths and money changers whose stalls lined at the length of the bridge, effectively turning it into a gold district. Money changers played an important role in the time given the diversity of currencies and the likelihood of having clipped coins which were no longer worth their original weight. That's actually... So, here's a question for you guys. That woman just sprouted out from the ground. So, you guys know, like, the ridges on the edge of coins? Like, does anybody have, like, a quarter or something like that? I don't know how the Americans do it, but... Does anybody have change in front of them? Okay. If you have two different types of coins, notice how on the edges of them that they have, like, different... You do have ridges. Okay, yeah. So there's two purposes for that. So the difference between the ridges and such exist partially so that, you know, the blind can have an identifier, but its original purpose was to get past the practice of coin clipping. So if you have a money which is based on if you have a money that's sort of like, so you always kind of hear about stuff like the gold standard, or how a particular coin has a value for a certain... Oh god. This might kill the stream. I just got an error message.